Have you ever wondered why you can walk every morning and still feel weaker, slower and less steady each year? That question hit me hard the day I realized something was quietly slipping away. For years I did what everyone told me to do. I walked every morning, same route, same pace, same belief that this was enough to protect my body after 65. And for a while, it felt comforting, familiar, safe. But then, small things started changing. My legs felt heavier when I stood up. My balance wasn't as automatic as it used to be. I noticed a brief hesitation before the first step, like my body needed permission to move. Nothing dramatic, nothing a doctor would call a problem. But I felt it. What scared me wasn't pain. It was the loss of confidence. That quiet doubt that shows up when you start asking yourself if your body will respond the way it always did. Walking was supposed to prevent this, yet here I was, doing it every day and still feeling a slow decline. One morning after finishing my walk, I sat down and realized my legs felt tired, but not alive. No warmth, no sense of activation, just fatigue. That's when it clicked. Walking was maintaining a habit, not stimulating my body in the way it now needed. After 65, the body doesn't respond to effort the same way. It responds to signals, and I wasn't giving the right ones. I started paying attention to how my body felt in the first minutes after waking, circulation, stability. That fragile window when everything is either turned on or left dormant for the rest of the day. Most people waste it without knowing. I did too. For years. That realization changed how I looked at mornings forever. Because what I discovered next wasn't about pushing harder or walking longer. It was about doing something simpler, safer, and far more effective for circulation, balance, and long-term independence. And once I felt the difference, there was no going back. Before I continue, let me ask you something important. Are you really paying attention to what your body is telling you each morning, or are you just following habits out of routine? If this feels familiar, take a second and let it sink in. If what I'm sharing resonates with you, leave a comment below and tell me your age and what your mornings currently look like. Reading other people's experiences helps you understand your own body better, and it helps this conversation reach people who truly need it. And if this is helping you see your health differently after 65, support the video with a like and make sure you're subscribed. That simple action tells YouTube this content matters, and it allows me to keep sharing practical, real-life strategies for circulation, balance, and independence as we age. Now, because what comes next is where everything started to change for me physically, mentally, and emotionally, let me take you into the exact mistake most people over 60 make the moment they wake up. What I didn't understand back then is that the biggest damage wasn't happening during the day. It was happening in the first minutes after waking up. That's when the body is most vulnerable, especially after 60. Overnight, circulation slows, joints stiffen, balance systems go quiet, and blood pools in places it shouldn't. And most of us do the exact wrong thing when we open our eyes. I used to wake up and go straight into autopilot, sit up slowly, shuffle to the kitchen. Coffee first, news on, body still half asleep. No signal sent, no activation. I thought rest was what my body needed in the morning. In reality, that calm inactivity was teaching my nervous system to stay slow, cautious, and unstable for the rest of the day. Here's what shocked me when I started paying attention. The first 20 minutes after waking set the tone for circulation, balance, and leg strength for hours. If I stayed passive, my legs felt heavy all morning. If I delayed movement, my posture collapsed faster. And that slight hesitation when standing or turning, it got worse, not better. Most people think decline starts with age. It doesn't. It starts with signals. And every morning, without knowing it, we send the wrong ones. We tell the body it's fragile, that it should move carefully, that stability is optional. Over time, the body listens. I noticed something else that bothered me deeply. Even on days I walked later, the stiffness never fully disappeared. The walk didn't reset me. It just tired me out. That's when I realized walking comes too late. By the time you're outside, your nervous system has already decided how the day will feel. This isn't about intensity, it's about timing. Seniors don't lose independence because they stop moving. They lose it because they stop activating the right systems when they're most responsive. Balance, circulation, and control are not trained by effort alone. They're trained by precision. Once I understood that, I stopped asking how much I should walk and started asking what my body needed before anything else. That single shift opened the door to a morning habit that changed how my legs felt, how steady I was, and how confident I moved through the day. What I did next felt almost too simple to matter. No equipment, no strain, no rushing. Just a few deliberate minutes focused on waking my body up instead of dragging it into the day. And the first thing I noticed wasn't strength. It was warmth. Real warmth in my legs, like blood was finally reaching places it hadn't in a long time. I started this habit before coffee, before news, before sitting down. The goal wasn't exercise, it was activation. I paid attention to how my feet connected to the floor, how my ankles moved, how my weight shifted slowly from one leg to the other. Within minutes, the heaviness I used to feel every morning began to fade. My legs felt lighter, more responsive, not tired, alive. What surprised me most was how quickly circulation changed. After years of waking up with stiff calves and cold feet, I suddenly felt flow, gentle, steady flow. That sluggish feeling that used to follow me into the afternoon was gone. And this wasn't from walking longer. It was from telling my body very clearly that it was time to function. There's something important most people don't realize after 65. Circulation isn't just about the heart. It's about rhythm. When you wake up, your blood vessels are less responsive, your muscles aren't pumping, and gravity is already working against you. If you don't create movement that encourages flow right away, blood pools, pressure builds, and fatigue follows. This habit changed that pattern. My legs no longer felt like they needed warming up later. They were ready early, and that readiness carried through the day. Standing up felt easier, turning felt smoother. Even my posture improved without effort. Another unexpected change was mental. When your legs feel stable, your mind relaxes. I didn't realize how much low-level anxiety I was carrying about balance until it started to disappear. Confidence returned quietly, not because I forced it, but because my body was responding again. This wasn't about doing more. It was about doing the right thing at the right time, and once I felt that difference, I understood why so many people walk every day and still feel decline. They're skipping the moment that matters most. What finally made everything clear to me was understanding why this simple morning habit worked when walking no longer did. Walking is repetitive. After 60, repetition without activation stops creating progress. Your body adapts, then slowly disengages. The muscles you need most for stability, circulation, and joint protection simply stop being called into action. Walking moves you forward, but it doesn't wake up the deep systems that keep you upright and confident. It doesn't challenge balance early enough. It doesn't ask your nervous system to coordinate. And most importantly, it doesn't teach your body how to respond quickly when something unexpected happens, like a misstep or a sudden turn. This morning habit does the opposite. It speaks directly to the systems that age fastest. Small stabilizing muscles in the ankles and hips, the connection between feet and brain, the ability to shift weight without hesitation. These are the systems that decide whether you feel confident walking or fearful of falling. I noticed that on days I only walked, my legs felt used but not protected. On days I did this first, walking felt smoother and easier later. The difference was control. Walking alone doesn't rebuild control after 65. It maintains motion, but motion isn't the same as function. Another thing walking doesn't address is circulation timing. By the time most people go for a walk, their body has already settled into stiffness. Blood has pooled, joints have cooled, the nervous system has chosen efficiency over responsiveness. At that point, walking becomes a chore instead of a stimulus. This habit works because it meets the body where it is in the morning. Slow, quiet, receptive. That's when circulation responds best. That's when balance systems relearn. That's when you can send the message that your body is still capable, still adaptable, still yours. Over time, the effect compounds. You're not just moving, you're training confidence, you're reducing hesitation, you're teaching your body how to stay upright and responsive as the years pass. And that's something no amount of steps can replace. The change in balance didn't arrive dramatically. It crept in quietly, the way real progress often does after 65. One morning, I realized I hadn't reached for the wall when putting on my shoes. Another day I turned quickly, without that brief pause I used to feel in my chest. The fear wasn't gone overnight, but it was loosening its grip. What most people don't understand is that balance isn't strength. It's communication. And with age, that communication fades unless you deliberately wake it up. Walking doesn't restore it. In fact, walking often hides the problem because it's predictable. Same rhythm, same surface, same direction. Balance doesn't get challenged, so it keeps declining. This morning habit forced my body to relearn trust. Trust in my feet, trust in my hips, trust in my ability to shift weight without thinking. Each slow movement told my nervous system, you're safe, but you're also capable. That combination is powerful after 65. I noticed my posture changed too. When balance improves, posture follows naturally. I wasn't forcing myself to stand straighter. My body just stopped collapsing forward. And that alone made walking feel more confident, more controlled, even on uneven ground. The biggest change, though, was psychological. The fear of falling is exhausting. It makes you cautious in ways that slowly steal your independence. When my balance started responding, again that constant background tension faded. I stopped scanning the floor. I stopped planning every step. I started moving again. This is what people rarely talk about. Falls don't start with accidents. They start with hesitation, with doubt, with a body that no longer trusts itself. This habit reversed that process for me, not by pushing harder, but by reconnecting the systems that keep you upright. And once that fear begins to fade, something else happens. You start imagining the future differently. Not as a slow narrowing, but as a space that's still open. And that's where the next realization hit me even harder. What surprised me most wasn't how quickly my body responded, but how those small morning minutes began to stack up over time. This wasn't a short-term boost. It was cumulative. Day after day, those early signals were teaching my body a new baseline. Stability became normal again. Circulation stopped feeling fragile. Movement felt reliable. After 65, the body doesn't need more intensity. It needs consistency in the right places. These few minutes weren't tiring, they were instructional. They reminded my nervous system how to coordinate, how to react, how to stay engaged instead of drifting into shutdown. And once that happens, everything else you do during the day becomes easier. I noticed I could stand longer without shifting my weight. I could get up from a chair without bracing myself. Even late in the afternoon, when fatigue used to creep in, my legs still felt present. Not strong like a younger body, but dependable. And at this stage of life, dependability is everything. This is where longevity gets misunderstood. Living longer doesn't come from adding years to the calendar. It comes from preserving function. The ability to walk confidently, to turn without fear, to live alone without constant caution. Those are the years that matter. Most people wait for decline to force change. I almost did. But starting the morning this way slowed everything down in the best possible sense. Decline lost momentum. The body stopped slipping quietly, and the future didn't feel like something I had to brace against anymore. The real power of this habit is that it doesn't demand motivation. It becomes routine. And routines shape aging more than effort ever will. That's why this worked when so many other things didn't. It respected the way the body actually changes after 65. And once I realized that, something shifted emotionally. Because for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was working with my body again, not fighting it. That feeling alone was a turning point. The moment that changed everything wasn't physical. It was emotional. One morning, after finishing this simple routine, I stood still for a second and realized something I hadn't felt in years. Trust, not optimism, not hope, trust in my own body. For a long time, I had been moving carefully without admitting it. Every step carried a small question mark. Every turn came with a calculation. I didn't call it fear, but that's what it was. A quiet fear that once the body starts declining, it never really listens again. That belief is heavy. It shapes how you age. And without noticing, I had started lowering my expectations, moving less, choosing safety over confidence, telling myself this was just normal after 65. But when my body began responding again, even in these subtle ways, that story broke apart. I realized the body doesn't shut down because of age alone. It shuts down because it stops receiving clear instructions. When you stop asking it to balance, it forgets. When you stop asking it to circulate, it slows. When you stop asking it to respond, it hesitates. But when you ask again, gently and consistently, it answers. That realization brought something back that I thought was gone for good. Agency. The feeling that I wasn't just reacting to aging, but shaping it. I didn't feel younger. I felt capable. And that's far more powerful. After 65, I started seeing my mornings differently, not as something to get through, but as a quiet agreement with my body, a promise that I would keep it active, alert, and respected. That mindset alone changed how I moved through the rest of the day. This is what no one tells you. Longevity isn't just physical, it's emotional. When you believe your body can still respond, you treat it differently. You move with intention instead of caution. You plan your life with confidence instead of limitation. That's when I understood this wasn't just about adding years. It was about protecting the years I already had. And once that became clear, I knew this was only the beginning of a much bigger shift. If you made it all the way here, it means something in this story spoke to you. And that already tells me you care about your body, your independence, and the years ahead of you. That matters more than any exercise or routine. If this perspective changed the way you think about your mornings after 65, take a moment and subscribe to the channel. This space is for people who don't want to give up control of their bodies just because of age. Leave a like as well. It helps this message reach others who are quietly struggling with balance, circulation, or fear of decline, but don't know where to start. And I'd really like to hear from you. In the comments, write this exact phrase, "I'm starting tomorrow." That simple commitment, shared publicly, can be the first step toward years of better movement and confidence. Before you go, don't stop here. The next video on your screen dives deeper into how to protect your legs, balance, and circulation as you age, especially when walking alone no longer works. Click it and continue this journey with me.